We want to have folks from all over the world so that we just become better at what we do from an agricultural community, from an animal and meat and food producing community.
Hello, me folks. Welcome back to the MeatsPad podcast today. Francisco Najar and
Phil Bass, your hungry host. Yeah.
So we're wrapping up this year. It's RMC and Minnesota.
The Reciprocal Meat Conference.
Yeah, the 76th, and it's actually our third.
I haven't been for all of them yet, though. I'm a little younger than that.
Some of the topics that we have done. I think 6, 7. I lost count of how many episodes because we did some
interviews,
in Spanish and some in English.
Yeah.
But tell me about your experience so far with some of the people they have interviewed. You had grad students, and we'll talk here in a minute about the importance of disseminating the work of others and reach the audience.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Well, at first I have to say the power of the Reciprocal Meat Conference, and if you're not a regular attender of that attendee of that, definitely consider it. Regardless of whether or not you are a scientist, this is a place to really learn a lot more, and it's bigger than just meat science. We have folks that just teach you how to be a better leader, better business operator, and you get to see some true innovation that's out there. And so, speaking of innovation though is we get we had the opportunity to interview an awful lot of folks, and yes, everything from graduate students who are wrapping up their time and learning about some of their projects, and they're the ones that are the closest to these projects. If you're a graduate student out there listening, or even an undergraduate that does research, you're the ones doing the hard work, and so you're the closest to it. So it makes sense to have you as an interviewee. But beyond that, we also had some pretty cool experts that I'm high-fiving at the end of the interviews. It is just a lot of energy, a lot of interesting topics that are very relevant that I think folks need to hear about. Things like human nutrition, animal welfare, and then some more precise topics like just big pigs and what are we doing with how do we better manage our livestock and things like that. So it's been an eye-opening experience. The Reciprocal Meat Conference, the American Meat Science Association's Reciprocal Meat Conference, is a venue to go and learn a lot, and I think we. Francisco, you and I get to learn even more because we get to have those. Yeah, we get to have those sit-down conversations with a number of these folks, and I've mentioned this conference is a target-rich environment as far as people to interview, and I was lining up interviews before you guys even arrived in Minneapolis. I was trying to figure out, find folks that have things that I believe would be relevant to our listeners. So it's been good. It's been really good.
You mentioned something that resonated with me because I spoke with Colette Castor earlier, and this is not the name of the association is American Meat Science Association, but they do global.
It definitely is intergalactic. Even if we don't know what's out there. So
no, but you're going to Italy in 2 weeks.
Yep.
So you're going and taking the word out about meat science and meat processing. I get the opportunity with my position to educate and help meat processors not only in the U.S. but also in Mexico, Central America, and South America. Actually going to Peru in a couple of weeks as well, and it's more than this.
Yeah.
So
it's more than American, and I'll give you even a little bit of background too. The question has been raised to the board of directors for the American Meat Science Association. I am one of those right now. I'm serving my first year of my 3-year term. But the question has come about is, do we strike American from American Meat Science Association? But I think there's a lot of value still to be had there. And, we are still a United States-based organization, but we have a very wide swath, and we have very wide open arms. We want to have folks from all over the world so that we just become better at what we do from an agricultural community, from an animal and meat and food producing community. And so I'm grateful that we're still the American Meat Science Association, but there's no question that it's bigger than just North America. It's bigger than the United States. It's a really big, it's a big community that we connect with. And you're right. It's really important that we spend a lot of time talking about research at this meeting. Research is how you discover. That's the proper discovery process. Going and doing scientific research, hypothesis based, if at all possible. But then we have to tell the story, and that's what this conference does, and that's what you and I get to do too when we get to travel around and go and share the good word of meat and science to the world. So
yeah,
pretty cool.
And this is what we're gonna be doing here in a minute. Can, like, in maybe 2-3 minutes, can you, like, a brief overview of the topics that you visited with other interviewees?
Yeah,
I know. Maybe you can take it away, and then I take a moment to also, for those folks that haven't listened to the episodes, like, what is it on some of the podcast series that were presented here?
Yeah. So I kind of mentioned it already, but we kicked a number of things, and I'm probably going to forget something. But we kicked things off holding hogs in, say, a holding pattern in case there's ever any reason why we can't get them to market. And COVID was a definite reason why we couldn't get a lot of hogs to market. And so research had to be conducted, and Iowa State University was great at doing some of that recent research. Jay, I'm forgetting his last, Stillwater, Jay Stillwater, who's going to be a soon-to-be graduate with his Master's of Science from Iowa State University, looked at some really cool ideas, simple technology, but a feed additive that can put hogs into a holding pattern in case you can't run them through the plant. Things happen. Life happens, right? And so it's important that we're looking at these different things. It's kind of, I talked about this during and just after all the COVID situation that we encountered, and adversity breeds innovation. We have to have those challenges as humans to get better at something. And so anyway, so we talked about pigs and holding them and how does that affect meat quality. Talked a little bit with Sarah Bludaw, who's a recent graduate from Iowa State University. There's a little pattern there apparently. You find one, you find the next. But and talked about plant-based fat components that can be mixed in with meat products. And I never thought I would be interested in this whole plant-based thing, but it's more of an enhancement rather than an alternative, and it does come from plants. It's just really cool. I had the great opportunity to interview a former colleague of mine, Dr. Lily Edwards Calloway. If you don't know that name, get to know that name. Everyone, maybe not everyone, but nearly everyone knows Dr. Temple Grandin. Lily works there side by side with Temple at Colorado State University. She's going to be around doing research for quite some time. She's still young, still has a lot of opportunity to go out and continue to teach. And she was mentored by Temple, and so she's going to continue to carry on the legacy. Temple continues to carry on the Temple legacy, but it's just going to be that much greater out there. And so we talked a little bit about that with Dr. Calloway. And then Shailene McNeil from National Cattlemen's Beef Association, a registered dietitian, The Importance of Meat in a Diet. Probably has become one of my favorite interviews I've ever done now. It was rapid fire. It was so much fun, and I learned a ton. We're also going to interview some students that looked at some heavyweight pig carcasses out there and how that, the reality is we're making these animals bigger. And that's how farmers get paid, is by the pound or by the kilogram or what have you, by the extra weight. But we have to figure out better ways of understanding that carcass, and that's what they're going to do. So,
and I think you mentioned something that resonated with me, is because during these discussions, a lot of questions and a lot of hypotheses are asked.
Yeah,
and those questions are like, get back to the lab. And so what we're doing has an impact.
Well, that's what research is. It's search and then research. Like, this is the results of one study lead to the question of the next. And that's the cool thing about science. It's just this continuum of learning.
And the opportunities, more importantly, the opportunities that I think we going back to what we talk, like challenges and opportunities.
Challenges and opportunities. That's right. Always an opportunity, right? You know, and that's I think all of our listeners need to think about that. Especially the folks with smaller operations where you are the owner operator. You wake up every day maybe a little anxious. Try this. Try waking up anticipating instead of anxious. Try to anticipate the opportunities that are there to just get better as a human. And that's going to lead to better business. And we've talked about that a number of times on this podcast. So keep getting better. Have a vision, too. You know, I had a chance to listen to a speaker on the Tuesday morning of the Reciprocal Meat Conference. And oftentimes, you know, we have these keynote speakers that come in. And sometimes it's a big, major topic like human nutrition or we talked about food insecurity one day. And it's really important to know that even in a country like the United States, there's folks that are going hungry, and we need to figure that out because that's wrong. That's a sin. But we also have really, really positive, uplifting stories about how to just become better. And from a research focus is where this individual came from, Dr. Britton from Georgia Tech. But he also said, you got to have a vision. And it doesn't matter whether you're a research scientist, whether you're a sausage kitchen, whether it doesn't matter. You need to know why you're doing something. And that resonated to me. You know, it's not just what you do, but why you do it. And when you start to think about the why in your business or in your research or in your government position, it's more anticipatory. You're anticipating the day instead of being anxious about the day, I think. So
I tell you something that I've seen in multiple conversations during this 3-4 days here in Minneapolis is utilizing the animal 100%. Mm-hmm. I saw in some, I think more than 2 reciprocation sessions or talk about rendering.
Yeah.
How that's becoming
byproducts and co-products.
Co-products.
Yeah.
Exactly. How can we use the 100% of the animal, even if it's going to end up in the pet food industry, but we do a better job. And as a matter of fact, I mentioned this a couple times on the podcast. A lot of the processors that I'm talking to, all of the owners, they are concerned about that. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to utilize 100%, even bones, fat.
Well, and it's, you know, I would say almost everybody utilizes it, but how can we get more value from it, right? You know, and I know there are a lot of very small processors out there that maybe aren't able to use everything, but you know, the processors of size have the capabilities, maybe rendering on site. Maybe they have an ability to salt hides on site or something like that. But you're right. It's how can we get more value out of it? Because there's pieces and parts that aren't the same price as that ribeye that's coming off, or the tenderloin on the pig or something, you know, or the belly, you know. There's still pieces and parts that we need to look at. How can we get better at getting more value out of it? Yeah. You're right, man.
And a lot of this, so we discussed with Bob Hansen, which I think I mean, you guys listen to that podcast or that episode, I was blown away. A lot of information. He's a very smart guy in about thermodynamics. And importantly, like you mentioned, some of these parts, like the cool products that instead of throwing away, they may be a market channel for maybe the trachea, the Wiesen. Yeah. If you can dry them, we can smoke them. You can become a pet treat. Yeah. It can become, and it can be either your brand, but you add the value. You increase the value of the carcass by giving it an extra step that is a shelf life stable. So there's a lot of people, a lot of processors exploring this with either a dryer, a smokehouse that they can utilize to do so.
Yeah, it's adding value to all those pieces and parts. That's what we need to be doing all the time. So,
well, very excited, Dr. Bass. I think we want to thank Colette, Deidre, all the
and if
MSA
you don't know
folks.
Colette and Deidre, get to know those two amazing ladies. Colette Castor, she is our CEO of the American Meat Science Association, and then Deidre Mabry is our Chief Operating Officer of the American Meat Science Association. They run a small but robust and powerful team of folks that are not just serving us as members of the Meat Science Association, but then also they're out there ready to serve anybody in the meat business. And it's not just from the post-harvest, it's pre-harvest. I mean, Colette Castor also works with the animal auditing groups out there. And so, guys, this is a cool organization to be a part of. Get to know these folks, or at least some of the members, and let us help you get better at your business.
I wanted to touch, like, they're serving the global meat industry. That, I think we can close it like that. Yeah. And I think this, and then maybe in the future we're going to start translating this into other languages. I mean, we're doing it in Spanish. That's obvious, but I think we ought to do more. And a lot of these conversations that ever happen and on MeatsPad, I mean, they're important to a lot of people. So, thank you. We continue to have. We'll see you. I think next year is in Oklahoma
City. Next year is in Oklahoma City, 2024. That would be the 77th Reciprocal Meat Conference. I don't have the dates in front of me, but it'll be in June, similar time, towards the end of June. And be there, Oklahoma City. This is a great opportunity, especially for all the guys. I mean, this is the center of the country. There's no reason not to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll see. Hoping to see everyone next year in Oklahoma City. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dr. Bass. Thank you, MSA.
Francisco.
And we'll see you the next year.